there was a lot of controversy about it. The reviews of the book were longer than the book itself. Now, I wasn't used to this or expecting it very much. My previous books, I'd written 2 books before, 2 or 3, and there'd been usual academic reviews, polite and not so polite maybe, but just basically saying from other historians. This book, partly, as one of my friends said, it hit a particular nerve or corresponded to a feature of political development in England at that time. Remember, 1977 was a time when the Labour Party had been in power for a very long time. It was a time when socialism and Marxism was very strong. The revolutions of the late 60s had taken hold. Much of England had become socialized, and the unions were very strong. But people were getting very tired and sick of this sort of way of proceeding. It had swung too far towards socialism. And in 1978, just after my book came out, Margaret Thatcher started the counter-revolution. 1979 she came back into power. There were a lot of people who were looking for a political philosophy which would explain that England wasn't naturally a communist or socialist society, that the great theories of Marx didn't work in England, that there had been no revolution. And for instance, I was quite surprised to find that Margaret Thatcher's closest friend and economic advisor, Sir Keith Joseph, when he was made minister in Margaret Thatcher's first government, in charge of the British economy, he ordered all the top civil servants in his division to read The Origins of English Individualism, because he said it was important that they understood the intellectual arguments for conservatism. So some of my attackers were saying I was a very conservative, reactionary thinker, because I was attacking the Marxist socialist view. I was saying that the English have always been individualists, they've always been different. Others attacked me for saying England is special, it's an island, it's always been like this. I was a little Englander, I was a nationalist, all these sorts of things. Now, I wasn't expecting all this because I hadn't really seen how my thought was fitting in with the general discussion at that time. But I was obviously both pleased and surprised and occasionally hurt by what people said. But I very soon realized, A, there were so many of these reviews, and B, I always advise my students, if they write a book and they get reviews, particularly hostile reviews, never reply to them. It just makes it worse, because people are not really interested anyway. You've said your thing, someone has put their counter argument, then people can judge between them. If you then counter it, it gets very complicated, and it gets vicious and bitter and so on. It's just a waste of time. So what I did was just not answer them. I mean, I answered them in my mind, and if there was something really serious in the review, I would try and take account of it and alter my work accordingly. But I just put them away in a folder, which you've seen. But then when I came to write later, The Culture of Capitalism, my publishers said, well, this is 10 years on from Individualism, why don't you look at all the controversies and reviews and do a general answer to all of them. So I went through them all, took out all their points, lumped them together, and wrote a kind of answer to as many of the points they made as possible. And I think that of the points that were made, about 1 in 10 were really good and fair and were mistakes.